everybody else is scared too. Everybody else is worried about how they're perceived. But if you practice and you know who you are, it will be easier to talk to others.
Welcome back to the Sunshine Café. I'm Lisa Roers, your host, and hey, thanks for joining me today. I'm here just to pour some positive back into your day with practical tips and stories to encourage and inspire. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the Sunshine Café. I'm Lisa Roers, your host, and wow, communication is everything in life. I used to always tell my teams that it doesn't really matter what you know if you can't communicate it. It's a huge part of our life. It's a huge part of our talents and our skill sets. And today, my guest, Pam Lippitt, is an expert in this area and is going to tell us all about how communication really impacted her life and why she's so passionate about it. So, Pam, welcome to the show.
So, hi, first of all. Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much to the Sunshine Cafe for having me on the program today. I'm really looking forward to speaking with you and your listeners. Communication, we can't get away from it, right? My feeling is you better get good at something you can't get away from. When I was a child, I hid behind my mother. I didn't talk to anyone. And this was in the days before everybody went to preschool and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I talked to the kids on my block and I had friends, but I really did not talk to strangers. I mean, forget it. And so my mom sent me to like a day camp before kindergarten in the hopes that I would have to talk to new people. And I always told her afterwards, well, I paid you back because I never stopped talking. So it worked, right? It worked. And so throughout my career, and I think throughout a lot of people's careers, you see that thread of communication, how you talk to people. I've owned businesses. I've worked in the nonprofit world. Everything you do is about how you speak to people, but more importantly, how you listen to people.
Right.
And so that you can get your point across. So after a myriad of jobs and whatever, I really landed on the fact that people always come to me to help them with how they're communicating with others. And sometimes life puts something in front of you and you have to go for it. Mm-hmm. Was it great that I went for it not even a month before the pandemic started? No. But I was just, always playing that thread. And I just decided to, give a little pull at that feeling inside me and move forward. And so now it's my pleasure to help others communicate and so that they can get ahead and listen and get listened to.
That is so great. I love that. There's so many things about that I love, Pam. And, as someone used to tell me, you've got two ears and one mouth. Use them in the right proportion.
Exactly.
Listen twice as much as you're talking. But it's so hard sometimes. You've got things you want to say. It's hard to kind of be quiet and let other people get their ideas out.
I once gave someone a notepad who I was very, very good friends with. So I gave everybody like a jokey kind of notepad. And his said, engage brain before mouth. I love it. And that is really, I think people are so bent on just throwing out that word vomit. I say it's akin to when you have an essay test in school. And if you feel like you just keep writing and writing and writing, somewhere in that mess, the teacher will find the answer just because you've written so much. So so you got to pull it back and get the right things across.
Yeah, it's so true. And you've said it so well too, that it's not just what we say, but how we say it and how we listen to what, you say something and then you listen. So yeah. I think it's interesting that most of us start our early years not really being comfortable with communicating. And then we think, well, we must be introverted. And I'm an introvert. I'm not a communicator, but a lot of it's just building a skill, right? Tell us a little bit about how that skill gets built.
Well, so I think we've lumped everyone together in this introvert category. I think a lot of people, I would include myself, are shy. I am just, if I don't know you, I am shy. I am not going to be the one who's in the center of a room if I don't know people. That's like my panic mode. I
Okay.
always say the hardest 20 minutes for me in the world is from when I leave wherever I am to a networking event.
On the way.
On the way, I have the pit in my stomach. Why am I going? I feel like those kind of events should have a rating system. Everyone will go, no one will go. And so you can figure out, because everybody always feels like they picked the wrong events, right? Oh, I should have gone to that one, not this one. So you have to figure out, if you're shy, what you can do to conquer that. If you're introverted, it means you don't really like to be in big rooms. If you're shy, you like quiet spaces. There's two different things, right? You can be in at a play that's a very quiet space, but it's lots of people.
Right.
But so you have to know who you are, I think, is the beginning of how you communicate with others
Mm.
and how you like kind of move through those hurdles to do a better job. So for the introvert, I often say, for everyone, I say bring a buddy, or have a safe person that is going to be in the room, right?
Yeah.
So when we started going to things after the pandemic again, yeah, nobody really wanted to go, but there was someone I had actually gone to high school with that I had been seeing at a lot of events. And so I ran into him and I literally said to him, can you be my safe spot in those rooms? I'm happy to be your safe spot. If you have no one to talk to, if you're feeling that this isn't the right spot, let's just know we can find each other
Yeah.
and and then that also gives you the opportunity for the first person who's going to introduce you to other people. We know different people.
So true.
And that breaks the stigma of how we're going to communicate.
Yeah. So, in my days of sales and business development and whatnot, I did a ton of networking. And my worst case scenario was always when I got stuck in one of those conversations that I could not get out of. So I always had a buddy in the room, a friend of mine, who
Yeah.
I could just say, "Hey, if I make this kind of signal to you, will you come rescue me and just say that you need me for something?"
I did a video before I was on someone's show before the holidays. And I used that same principle for difficult conversations during the holidays, right? You always know you're going to get to a family thing and there's going to be one person who is just either going to go down a ramp we don't like to go down these days, or is just going to ask you personal questions or whatever it is. And I always say, have that family member you're really close to that you can like give a little signal to, that they can pay attention that you're stuck and they can come in and pull you out. But there's other things. There's like the laughter thing. There's turning it on its head, right? So, there is nothing wrong if someone asks you something really, really personal to say, how about those Michigan Wolverines? Oh,
Yeah.
look, I wove in Michigan. How about, you totally turn it on its head.
Yeah.
See, you laughed, right?
Yeah.
So the goal is to get the other person to laugh, but to understand you're just not going there. You have the right not to go down a rabbit hole. We go down enough rabbit holes ourselves. We don't need other people to help us do that.
Right. Well, and I love the boundary. Like, let's make sure that we're putting up boundaries in things we don't really feel comfortable talking about. And it doesn't have to be like an anger thing. I don't have to be mad that the person asked me about that. I can just kind of say, I'm not comfortable talking about that. Let's talk about the Wolverines.
Right. Or, how about those tigers? Did you see that show last night on whatever it is, it's the 180-degree switch.
Yes.
You don't even need to say to someone, I'm not comfortable about this. They're going to understand you're not going there. You're going to get a laugh in the middle of it, and that's great.
Yeah. So what about those people out there, Pam, since you're kind of our expert that we're highlighting today? What about those people who are the ones who always bring up the conversations that we all don't feel comfortable with? How do you know if you are one of those people? And how do you stop being one of those people? How do you develop that sensitivity to the conversation?
Well, that's a big one. for some people, it's much easier than others. So I would say if three people over, a certain period of time don't answer your question or make that pivot to something else, you need to be self-aware enough to know this is not where you should be going. And that's really not as easy as it sounds. I don't want to play women against men, but I will say women are much more intuitive and have more of that like emotional side, not to pry,
Yeah.
where men are like, let's get this done. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
There's always that person who, if they don't like your answer, is going to move on to the next person. So just that's fine. Do that. Or just, but you need to practice what you're going to ask. You need to figure it out. I work in the world of threes. I'm a lefty. And so I like to be asymmetrical and uneven with my things. You will never see like two things somewhere. You will always see three things somewhere. And so I like to say you need to know what you need to have prepared three different things you're going to not only talk about yourself when you're meeting people or communicating with people, but three open-ended questions you're going to ask someone.
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah. So if for example, I tell my clients, if you're at a conference and someone raised their hand but didn't get called on in a breakout room, right? That happens all the time. It's time to go, whatever. When you walk out in the hall, ask them what their question was going to be.
Yes.
That is so non-threatening. First of all, you're going to get an answer because they wanted to ask the question.
Right.
And you don't know where it's going to lead.
And it shows you that you were paying attention and that you saw that person. People love to be noted, like at least recognized.
Yes, exactly. You like to be seen, right? And so those are really good things. There's a book by Mika Brzezinski called Knowing Your Worth. It's one of my favorite books. And she talks about the difference between men and women in the workplace. And that, one of her examples, this isn't the example I'm going to talk about, but this is one example I find so interesting, that women, when they're figuring out how to ask for a raise, figure out, did the boss have a good weekend? Was it a good day? Maybe it's not a good hour. And a man goes, it's Tuesday. I think I'll ask for a raise. So that's kind of the difference. But one of the stories she tells in the book is about a big CEO who had a big, a meeting for the company. And when the meeting was over and she went back to her office, there was a line of women waiting outside. And she said, why are you here? And they said, well, at the end of the event, you said this is the, one more question. You took one more question and this is the end of the question. And no woman kept their hand up, but every man didn't agree with your rule and kept your hand up and you answered the men's questions. And so we're here to ask our questions. And so it's a different, I just thought that was such an interesting story. I really, it's time to reread her book because there are she interviews all these different people and it's just so interesting how we relate to the world and how we value ourselves. And when you go back to the person who always asks, when someone always asks questions that you don't want to hear, how do they figure out that they're asking that? Sometimes it's impossible because it's a Tuesday, so they're going to ask those personal questions. Right?
Oh, true.
See how I wove that back?
Yes, very, very well done. Very well done.
I've even surprised myself.
I have met some amazing men in business who are really good at being self-aware. But I have also met men and women who are completely oblivious to their own behavior. And I think that's a really good note that you said, to become a little bit more self-aware about how our communication is affecting someone else. And specifically, some of the words we use. Sometimes the words we use are repelling for whatever reason, because of the culture, because of the way that person was raised. And like to your point, I know those things. I have that genetic superpower of being more nurturing and understanding and looking at the whole picture. And I think that is a beautiful skill and gift that women have. A lot of men have it too, but women usually have this really innate ability to kind of look at those things. But that's a wonderful thing to consider, is just what words you're using and how you're saying them.
Yes. And how you're inviting someone else into a conversation. So one of the things I often talk about is the power of the pause, right? When you write something, there's a reason at the end of a paragraph you do a double line space, right? It gives you time to, or end of a chapter. That says to you, pause, that was a complete thought. Think about it, and now move to the next thought, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes there's those three little dots, and you're like, how come that's in the middle of the paragraph? How come that's not a new paragraph? We all look at those things, right? I'm a reader, I look at those things. So I say it's the same when you're speaking. When you're speaking to someone, or you're having I always say I speak with someone. I never use the word I speak to someone, because that creates a hierarchy, and I want an equal conversation. So when you're speaking with someone, think about that paragraph full stop. It does a couple things. First of all, you regroup that you've covered it, and it gives the other person a chance to speak without feeling like they're interrupting you.
So true.
See, I gave space for you. I gave space for you to think about what I said. And now if it's an employee-employer relationship and you're not sure what you heard, or there was something, that a thread in there that you thought, "Oh, is that really what they mean?" because it was buried. It gives you, when they pause, it gives you a chance to respond with, what you were talking about, this and this. Can you repeat that so I'm clear? Or can I repeat it back to you so we make sure I'm understanding what you're saying?
That is such a powerful thing to repeat back in your own words what someone just said. Yes.
Because it doesn't matter if it's a work situation or a friend situation. If you're not getting what they said, and so now you're walking away with and two people are walking away with the idea that two different things are going to happen.
Yes. It creates expectations that might be completely false.
Right. So if you're not on the same page, there's a study that says that only like 19% of conversations end when both people want them to end. Like together, both people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that means there's like 80% that doesn't, which means that one person either doesn't understand the task or the next step, or one person is just bored with telling you. So by repeating back the steps, or having when I help someone do an agenda, or I'm in I'm on a couple boards, and so I chair committees and we have an agenda, right? So always at the end is, from the chairman's side, is a recap and the next steps. And you leave that room, and then when the minutes go out or the summary goes out, whatever it is, it has all those things in place so that it doesn't leave you up in the air. If there's an assignment to do something, it's on there. I'm working for not working. I'm actually a volunteer on a national organization. I'm chairing the governance committee, which is funny. But as much as I like to talk, I like things in bylaws to be absolutely readable and correct. So my very first thing when I chaired this, there are two attorneys on the committee, right? I'm not an attorney. The first thing I said is, I want these bylaws, when we're done, for anyone to be able to pick them up, read, and understand any sentence in here, not have to get four opinions and then pay an attorney to also give an opinion. There's no reason. And that's been our through line to get it, through the thing. And so one of the attorneys, we were having a hard time with one of the paragraphs. And I just said to him, you're the attorney, and I know you know how to write in English. Can you take a stab at that paragraph and bring it back to the meeting? And then at the next meeting, I said, when we're ready for that, are you working on those couple paragraphs? And he said, yes, I am. I have my rough drafts done. So it wasn't like a hard thing for him. It's pretty easy. It was a paragraph that referred to like, employment laws or something like that I know nothing about. So, he felt good that I asked him for his specific advice. I felt good I didn't have to do it. And it was a good communication.
Yeah.
I'm a good writer. It kind of comes with the territory, right? But I'm a great editor. But I'm also a good editor on myself. I wouldn't edit something for you if I wouldn't do it for myself. When I ran a nonprofit, I had a president who, at first I was like, a little, but she taught me that if 3 words were there and 1 word was good, 1 word was good enough. Figure out the 1 word. And so I always edit words out. And it's funny because when I work with startups, all the things they have to do, this thing needs 200 characters and this needs 50 words and this needs 100 and it's always different. And so I have become an expert at parsing down those sentences to absolutely the essential. That's much harder to do, right? I talked about essays in the beginning and you just talk until you hope you've covered the right thing. But when you're limited on space, and so think about when you're speaking to an audience or when you're even in a meeting and speaking, I will say when I was young, I talked a lot more in meetings than I do now. Now I truly want to be the person who speaks a lot less, but gets heard a lot more. Because the person who always has their hand up, people roll their eyes. Well, they may not roll them at that person, but inside they're, oh, she's going to say something else. What else of course she has something to add here.
Yeah.
But
well, that goes back to self-realization too. It's like, are you the person in the room who's always saying something? You might want to sit back and let someone else talk.
Yeah, you would think. Well, so as chairing a group, there are ways to get around that. I can give you a couple little hints for that if you're chairing something. But, if you speak less, people will go, oh, she must really have something to say because now she's talking. One of the things, there are not tricks. There are things that the chairman should always be doing to help that along.
And by chairman, you mean the person running the meeting?
Who's running the meeting or whatever. If it's someone who's always raising their hand in a meeting or always has something to say. And so one of the techniques is calling on 3 people. So if people have their hand up, call on 1, 2, 3. And then that you're going to be up next. And then that eliminates people like as trying to cut off someone speaking by raising their hands all of a sudden, and it's distracting for everyone. But if you say 1, 2, 3, and when you get to 3, you say, okay, you're third. All right, you 2 are going to be next. You are controlling the situation. You are controlling that person isn't always the one speaking. And there is nothing wrong with saying, let's hear from some new voices. Or so-and-so, if you have a good relationship, so-and-so, I can see the wheel spinning in your head. I want to hear what you have to say. Mm-hmm. You may know that there's something to pull out of someone who's not going to be fighting for space, but probably has the right answers, right? Yeah. So there are different techniques to help people along and to help a group along that play into that. And I think that role is so important no matter where you are. Even if you're at dinner with a huge group of friends, with a big group of friends, and someone's monopolizing the conversation, there's nothing wrong with you saying, so-and-so, we haven't heard from you all night. You must have something to say. Tell us what's going on in your life. They probably do have something to say, but, we're tired. We're just not going to fight against that big voice. It's just not worth our effort. But boy, if someone asks us something, I have something to contribute. I have something to say. And so that's a good thing.
Yeah. Then you're opening the door for them and they don't have to feel like they're interrupting, like you said earlier, or walking all over somebody else. That's one of the things I think we really ran into when we when the whole world moved to Zoom meetings is everybody's talking all over everybody else because nobody's pausing long enough, or the connection is a little bit delayed, and so you end up talking all over each other. And usually the magic, the real solution that's really magical comes after the pause of that person. So they're saying something, and they stop for a second to excavate that really awesome gold nugget. And just before they get it out, someone interrupts them. So that
Right.
that power of pause that you said is powerful in two different ways. It's powerful to give someone else entree, but it's also powerful to let the person finish what they're saying.
Right.
We had to train our teenager how to do that. It's like, no, give dad 3 seconds, fully 3 seconds before you say anything. And it's really helped.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason there's a raise hand button on the bottom of Zoom. Nobody uses it. Like we've been through, I say like too many times. We've been through what, 6 years now of using Zoom, 7 years of I was using it before. Still, people don't understand the raise hand. And so I'm a somewhat of a rule follower. I'm more of a rule follower than I'm not. So I use the raise hand feature, and then I get annoyed when people talk, don't care. But so then I end up interrupting too because I get annoyed.
Well,
Which,
sometimes it's hard not to.
right.
Sometimes you just end up doing that, and that's okay. But these are just principles and ideas to consider to make your communication even better. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
know that you have a course that you do on communication. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the course is called From Hello to Success. And it is about what happens between those two. It's how to figure out how to position yourself physically from saying hello to creating lifelong business relationships and connections that you can depend on and exchange information with or job search things the rest of your career. And it's really creating deeper connections versus many surface connections. And one of the things, that I say, and I just found a whole slew of business cards. I don't know where they were hiding because they were really old. I'm trying to clean up my office. And it's that thing. You've got this pile of cards, which truly means nothing. So I talk about how to make the deeper connections and how to follow up with the connections and how to continue those, because those are the things that are going to count.
Absolutely. And what a brilliant course to be offering right about this time frame, because you have all kinds of young adults who are finishing college, starting their career, and because of the interruption of COVID in the middle of their learning process, a lot of them lost the opportunity to develop the skills of communicating with people face to face and how to develop a conversation and have it go somewhere. So is this something that would be good for all ages, or what's kind of your target?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's also, we talk a little bit about LinkedIn and how you create those connections. Like this morning I woke up and someone had liked the last 6 of my posts, someone I have no clue who they are. And then I knew it. I went into the part to accept new connections, and there he was selling me his services, because he thought it was enough that he had just liked 5 of my posts and then put a pre-done AI babbling thing, never asked me a word about myself. So we talk about in the course preparing all those things. I'm very big on being prepared. I'm very big on practicing. That's really, when I was young, I was probably 14 the first time I spoke in front of 1,000 people. I know, shocking, right? In my synagogue, but it was a lot of people. I was 14. And I'm one of the lucky people that never has bothered me, speaking in front of a crowd. And it's something I'm very good at. I like to be very conversational when I speak. And, it's things we've missed out on.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did we used to call those social skills? Do we still have social skills? Not so much.
Not so
Not so
much.
much.
Well, and
So,
unlike you, I was terrified to speak in front of people when I was 14, like terrified. The first time high school teacher gave me the assignment that you're going to have to say this in front of class. And I'm so happy to see that, like my son's school, they've done this with them ever since they were little. They've been asked to get up in front of the class and speak and say something. But in our school, it was like I was a junior in high school before the first time I had to do that. And I was terrified. But I'll tell you what, doing it is what made it better. Yes, I was terrified. I was terrified the second time, the third time, the 10th time, the 15th time. I was terrified. But little by little, I learned about how my body reacts when I'm nervous, how, what kinds of palpitations I have. And, does my mouth get dry or do I have to go to the bathroom, even though I just went to the bathroom? Those kind of things, the nervous things that happen when you are up in front of people. But it just gets better by just doing it.
So I am about to launch my own podcast. I'm very excited. I've been doing a lot of the recording, and next week I'm going to start finishing up and polishing things up. And it's called Communication is an Art. And it's just for that reason. I say I'm an artist at heart. I knit, I bead, I do everything. My first job was in a bead store. I really do. If you could see this side of my room, it's all crafts. So I say the first time you make something, it's a learning process. It's not going to be perfect. I'm also the kind of person who every time I knit, I want to do a new stitch or something new and learn something. Otherwise, I get bored. But that's what communication is. It's an art that needs to be practiced and refined. I don't speak from a written document ever. I mean, maybe twice, and I don't want to say ever, I don't like absolutes, but maybe twice in my life because I was forced to. I like the first paragraph to be written and the last paragraph to be written. And in between that, I may have a sentence that starts a paragraph, but then I have all bullet points. Because if I can read you what I'm going to say, I can hand it to you. If I can give you a slide deck that I read you, let me stay home and just look at your slide deck if you've told me nothing new. So I say, the slide deck is your, aid. It is not your presentation.
Yes. The thing that popped in my head when you said that is like painting a picture on a canvas or painting by number. Like when you're reading something out, you're painting by number. There's no creativity there. There's no room to respond to the people that you're speaking with. But when you're just got a blank canvas and maybe an introduction or an outline, yeah, you've got a lot more room to move.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Hey, I'm curious, as we kind of wrap things up here, a couple things. What if there is someone listening who's like, I know I need to practice, but how do you find opportunities to practice when you work from home or you're just in school, so you're in class all day? So could you give our audience a couple ideas for how could they find opportunities to practice their communication?
Well, I say get out of your own way and go somewhere new. Bring a friend with. I'm not discounting that people get uncomfortable. Have your backup, have your safety. Go together to somewhere new. Maybe there's something you've been wanting to try. It's really a muscle you're exercising, right? You're not going to run. Well, I'm never going to run a 500-yard dash fast. We learned that in elementary school, but you can practice and get better. You can do that. So if that would be a totally new situation I'm not going into, but I do other things that stretch muscles. And so this is a muscle. Your voice is a muscle you have to stretch. And so go somewhere new. If you have to do a report, if you have to do something, when we were younger, we didn't have Zoom as our friend. And as uncomfortable as it is, record yourself doing your presentation.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And watch it back. I know it's scary. You're not going to like yourself. You're not going to like your voice, but you're going to pick up things that you want to correct. But, I say like too many times. So if I hear a playback, I will flip out at how many times I've said like without even realizing it. But I also may say, you know what? The old journalism trick, don't bury the lead. And so when you hear yourself back, you may figure out that you have buried the lead about what you want to tell people. And that the answer to being comfortable is reorganizing what you're going to say. Don't start from scratch. Just look at what you're going to be talking about and say, am I really putting this in the right order? Also, when I'm doing something that's really important, I like to practice it in front of someone that has no clue what the topic is or what the subject is or anything like that. Why? I need to know if they understand what I'm talking about.
Right. How many assumptions are you making in the terminologies and whatnot?
Right. And I want it to be just like I said, when you're writing the bylaws, you want anybody to pick it up and be able to read a sentence and know that means this is the quorum or this is the super quorum. You don't want to have to spend time thinking about it. When you're presenting, when you're talking to someone, you want to be clear. That is your goal, right? I mean, I don't think anybody's goal is to be so obscure and so confusing to the other person. Who has that? Oh, if you have that goal, that's a whole different conversation.
That's a whole different podcast.
Right. But that's your goal. You want to. So you exercise that muscle to make sure that you are being clear and kind and direct about what your ask is, what your information is, so that other people understand what you are saying and want to know more, right? Leave them wanting more. Isn't that what they say?
Those are great tips, Pam. And I think a lot of our audience has heard this before, but I'll restate it again, that simple format of tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Yeah. Just that simple framework sometimes is really good. People are not good at actively listening. So you feel like, oh, I'm being so redundant. No, you're not. You're just actually helping people hear it and retain the information that you're trying to communicate. So,
and the reality is that last part, tell them what you told them. If you think of that as the summary of what you've told them, that's really the summary.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's hitting your high points and making sure the things you really want people to take away is going to be the last thing they hear.
Sure.
And the last thing they pay attention to.
Oh, I love that. I have equal passion on this topic as you do, I think. And I think we could communicate about communication for a few hours. Yes. But let's tell people where they can find you if they were interested in this course that you have coming up or other offerings you have.
Okay, so I am on LinkedIn, Pamela Lippitt. You can find me there. My company name is the Hill Street Group, and you can find me there on my website. And there's all different opportunities. I'm also a speaker through Innovation Women. You can find me there. I'm pretty findable these days.
Yeah. So. Lots of opportunities for practice, my friend.
Just Google me.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, as a word of wrap up, then, if there is something that you could encourage a young person or someone in their career who's having a real struggle with communication, what might be something that you would encourage them to just one thing that they could do to improve today?
Well, aside from taking my course.
Yes. Right.
Practice. Practice. Everybody else is scared too. Everybody else is worried about how they're perceived. But if you practice and you know who you are, it will be easier to know and to talk to others. So find the 3 things in business you want to share, the 3 personal things. We didn't even go there in this thing. I have my 3 things. Okay, U of M is one of them. Gardening's another. Knitting's another. We talked about knitting. We didn't talk about gardening. But know who you are is, I think, the most important thing.
Yeah, and be willing to share those 3 things. Yeah, find 3 things. You don't have to share your deepest, darkest secrets, but find 3 things that you're willing to share with people, right?
Yes.
Oh, Pam, such a joy to have you and such a privilege. And we literally do need to have you back because this is a topic that requires more time.
I would love to come back. I love this. And you know what's really interesting, Lisa? We did a pre-interview, right? Everybody does a pre-interview. That's not a secret. We didn't talk about one thing we talked about in the pre-interview.
I know. That's true. We just got to know each other.
Right. So this has been my pleasure. Just, send me a connection note on LinkedIn. Anyone out there? just make sure you add a personal note and say, I heard you on the Sunshine Café. That will be your automatic into my LinkedIn acceptance feed. So.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Pam, for your time and your wisdom. We so appreciate having you.
Oh, and thank you for the opportunity. Bye-bye, everyone.
Pam is just so easy to talk to. I think she's doing exactly what she was meant to do. I have 8 quick takeaways for you today. Number 1, start with self-awareness. Great communication starts with knowing who you are. The more grounded you are in your own identity and values, well, the easier it becomes to express yourself with clarity and confidence, whether you're in that meeting at work, on stage, or at a family dinner. Number 2, preparation beats panic. Do you get nervous about what to say when you're in a social situation? Remember what Pam tells us. Prepare those 3 personal things you can share and prepare 3 open-ended questions that you could ask. This single preparation will help build your confidence and make conversations flow more naturally, and hopefully will help you avoid those awkward pauses when nobody knows what to say. Number 3, practice like it matters, because it really does. Everyone gets a little nervous in those new social situations. You're not alone. And if anyone is with you that looks like a pro, well, it's probably just because they've done it a whole lot more than you have. Pam encourages us to record ourselves and practice in front of a mirror, or if you can, practice your topic in front of somebody who has no familiarity with it, so you know if you're being clear or not. You could even rehearse that important conversation you have that's coming up with someone at the office, or maybe it's a personal conversation. Clarity, confidence, and connection come through repetition. Number 4, use the power of pause. Don't rush to fill the silence. A tiny pause can actually be really valuable, even if it feels a little awkward at first, because that pause gives you both time to think and creates a little space to process and maybe think about that next really important thing that your friend is about to share. It's also an opportunity where you get to exercise the other important part of communicating, which is real, active, and interested listening. Number 5, speak with someone, not to them. When you're talking with people, try to avoid the hierarchy in your conversations. Aim for mutual respect by choosing words that invite dialogue. Use language like, I'm going to speak with them, instead of, I'm going to speak to them. Replace the buts in your sentence with an and. And this is a really, really important trick and so simple. So when someone just mentions something that's really valuable, you can say, that's a really good point, and have you thought about this? Or something like that. If you put and in there, it's a much easier conversation, and it doesn't negate what the person just said. So adding the and helps to make sure you're not gonna, offend people unintentionally. Number 6, clarity is critical. This is applicable for any conversation that has some to-dos to do, but it's especially important in those professional communications. When you finish a conversation or a meeting, remember to recap what you understand the main message was and cover any open action items that were identified. Also identify who's going to be responsible for those action items and when they're going to finish them by. I think I could do an entire podcast just on running effective meetings. And maybe I will actually. But making these quick questions part of your meeting habits will help you and your teams exponentially. Don't assume everybody heard the same thing. Recap, clarify, and confirm those next steps. Number 7, have an exit strategy. We've all been there. Oh my goodness. Those tough conversations, whether it be with a family member or you're at a networking event or a business meeting or a dinner, those conversations that you get stuck in, you cannot get out of. So remember to plan ahead. Have an exit strategy. Identify someone in the room who can be your buddy and set up a signal of some sort that you can give them when you really do need some help out of that conversation. We all need to have good boundaries for ourselves, so this kind of gentle plan will help you protect your peace and maybe keep you out of that rabbit hole before you get down in the weeds too far. And finally, number 8, leave them with the good stuff. Know your high points, and then end with the things that you most want to remember. Pam reminds us that what is said last tends to stick with us, so recap your conversation with a couple of high points that will help both of you remember the best parts of your discussion. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please, if you would, share this episode because you just never know what kind of encouragement or tips might be in this conversation that someone else really does need to hear. So pass it along, share it, like it, and subscribe. I know we can work together to flood the world with more encouragement. Until next time, my friends, stay encouraged, be inspired, and I'll see you right back here next time at the Sunshine Café.